Well, I was recently browsing the turning subreddit and I came across a post that had these tools in them. These are the Kelton Industries Hollowing Tools, and I picked these up from Lee Valley a few weeks ago, and I believe I paid roughly around 150 for all three of them. Now I went with the medium size or the 5/8 size, and that's just so it works in tandem with the current hollowing system that I use, which is the Trent Bosch system. But I've actually have never used a solid tip tool like this. I've always used replaceable tips or carbide tips. So like any other woodworker or wood turner, I'm always excited to try new tools, and I just want to see how these turn, like, in comparison to what I'm using now. But yeah, I'm excited to see how these work, and with that said, let me get the bowl blank that I'll be turning today, mount on a lathe, and get some turning done. Alright, well, I've got a piece of maple stuck between centers here on the lathe. And for today, or for at least for this form, I kind of want to keep it on the simpler side. Just because, like I said, I've never used one of those solid tip tools like that before when it comes to hollowing out a form. And before I jump to anything more complicated, I really want to see how they work and kind of just, how they turn. But yeah, let me get my mask on so we can get this thing shaped and figure that out. Alright, well, the outside is about finished. I just have a little bit of work left to do, especially here on the top where the spur was. I've got to turn this little nub away and kind of flatten this out a little bit more. Overall, the piece is really pretty, especially the wood. It's a crotch piece of the wood, and so I've got a little bit of figure. There's a lot of spalting, and there's two pits here, and it's also got this little hole here for a little bit of detail. So overall, I'm very happy. The only thing is, I'm just not crazy over the shape or the design of it so far, but again, like I said in the beginning, this is just practice, and I just want to try out those new tools to see how they work. Other than that, I mean, this piece is about done. I just have on the lip here, I left a little bit of, it's thicker than what I wanted. The jaws that I'm using are 3 inches, and I would actually like the foot to be about 2 or so. But what I'll do is when I go to actually finish this piece and turn the tenon off, I'll just shape that when I do that. So I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. That's something for when this piece dries. But yeah, I'm excited to see how this turns out, and I'm actually really excited to be using these tools. So let me get my mask and stuff back on so I can finish this top, and we can finally get to hollowing this thing out. Well, it has been a few weeks since I've had this hollow form on the lathe, and it is finally dry, ready to be sanded and oiled, and everything dried really nicely, other than a few little checks and cracks here and there that were to be expected around the pith. Just took some SIG glue, filled those in, but other than that, no major cracking, and it turned out really nicely. So what I plan to do is just sand the top here and as far down as I can. Then we'll reverse chuck it, and like I said a few weeks ago, I want to reshape the bottom here and make it a little bit smaller. So I'll do that first and get that to where I'm happy with it, and then I'll finish sanding that. And once we do that, it's time for some oil. So with all that said, let me get my mask on so we can get started. Alright, well, the hollow form is finished and oiled and ready to be revealed, but before I do that, I kind of wanted to give a few final thoughts on the Kelton Hollowing Tools, since this video was supposed to be about those. Now, to start off, they were awesome to use. I absolutely loved using them. They cut very well, and they cut aggressively if I wanted to cut aggressively, and they also were fantastic at getting those final cuts. And with that, they also sharpened very easily. And, you know, I use a Rikon slow speed grinder with a 180 grit CBN wheel, and just like sharpening any other scraper, it was fairly simple to do, and they actually last a very long time because the whole process of turning that hollow form, I only had to sharpen them I think once or twice, so they have a good lifespan on them as far as that's concerned. The only two drawbacks that I had with these tools is, unlike the replaceable tips, when these run out, you have to replace the whole tool. Now, they are I think, very nicely priced at $150 for the whole set, so I'm not too concerned, but also this is very dependent on how often you turn hollow forms. If you're like me, I maybe turn 1 to 2, maybe 3 hollow forms a month, so I expect these to last quite a while, especially given that I only had to sharpen it once or twice with one hollow form, so I'm not too concerned about that. Now, the second drawback is pretty specific to my system and my experience. Now, I currently use the Trent Bosch hollowing system in the 5/8 size, and that was the whole reason I got these tools, because they are 5/8. Now, the straight cutter fit in the system just fine, no issues at all. But when I went to use the curved tools, they actually would not fit in the tools. Now, I don't know if it was something with the system or if it was something with the tools. It's neither here nor there. It was not a huge drawback. All I did was shape it down just a hair, just took a hair off the tools, and they fit in just fine. So, you know, something moving forward I don't have to worry about again, because they will fit now. But, you know, it's not a huge deal. It wasn't to me, so I'm not too concerned about that. But other than those two things, everything worked out fantastically. Everything worked out fantastic, and I'm excited to use them again. With all that said, let me know what you think about the hollow form down in the comments. I would love to hear y'all's feedback on it. And finally, here is the reveal of the maple hollow form using the Kelton Hollowing Tools.